also announce it that we have started. Let me close this one. Let me reopen my oh, let me also share your games link. I also shared your games link not just in my Discord but in my Twitch chat right now, so people can check it out and wishlist it. Okay. Let me check if everything is correct. Okay, we are good. Okay, let me. Okay, let me sit into my original position here. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know before we start if the quality of the video is good, because I had some lag issues due to OBS problems, due to stream software problems 1 week ago, so please let me know. Hölgyek, urak, tudassátok velünk, hogy van-e probléma, vagy nincs, akkor kezdhetünk. Sorry for my voice, but I went back for 1 hour sleep and I barely got woken up because I
was concerned about you.
Yeah. No, it's hot here, so I wake up early, to be honest. I just went back to sleep because it's so hot here. I had a headache. Usually I don't have that much of headaches, to be honest. It's very rare that I have a headache, but like it's so hot here in Hungary, like it's crazy. We are as Hungarians are not used to this weather, you know.
So it's unusual. It's not
it's
like a normal summer for you.
36 plus Celsius.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah, my room is
it's like the temperatures we have here.
Sorry?
You know, I'm Brazilian, right?
Yeah, I do. But it's
like very hot here.
Yeah. I heard that a lot of people are suffering all over the Europe because of this hot weather. Like it's most European people, I think, are not used to this hot weather, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For you, like above 40 degrees can be deadly, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's very weird to experience. Like we are, chickens in, a hot oven. I feel like that. Yeah. Okay. Gergovics, jó a minőség? Is the quality of the stream good? There is no lag? Please let us know so we can start. We started some minutes earlier to test out everything, so we are here now on time, but let us know so we can actually start. Jó, minden? Jó. I posted, before we go, I posted the games link, Shobatsu, in the chat as well, not just my Discord. Everyone, so please don't forget to check it out and wishlist it. And yeah, are you done to start? Okay. Let's go then. Okay, welcome everyone in my very newest episode of Dev Live Show. I'm here today joined with the creator of the game called Shobatsu, and I'm very honored and very thankful that you have accepted this request of mine for this video interview. And like I'm always saying, let's start with a little bit of introduction, so please introduce yourself for us.
Thank you, Remulto, for having me. The honor is all mine. My name is Roger Goncalves Guimaraes. I'm the developer of Shobatsu. And the Shobatsu is a beaten up set in feudal Japan with ninjas and all that stuff that I love. And I hope many people who also share this taste of mine can also enjoy. And I actually have also another job that helps me pay the bills.
Okay.
Now, I hope, for now. I work as an auditor, but my real passion is game development. I hope I can make it into a profession in the future. I'm also a father. I have a beautiful 4-year-old girl.
Nice.
And I also hope I can make her proud one day. I can make her something that really can make her like I'm doing something for the family.
That's very nice. You saying that. That's very nice. And I'm the one who is honored that you join us for today's show. So I'm always wondering of people's origin about video games. So what was your and I'm also always interested in hearing these stories. So what was your very first contact of with video games, if you can remember that?
My first experience, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
Um,
playing those games.
uh, yeah, I think I started very young. By the way, I'm kind of old now. I'm 45, so my very young years were in the 80s, and I think I played. I don't have like very clear memories, but I think I played at the home of some friends of mine and
Okay,
cousins of mine. First console was the Atari 2600,
okay,
and that's the first video game I got a while later from my mother, who bought me as a gift as a 9-year old, right? And then it was a great console. I love it. But then after a while, right, it was already late at the time when I got it. Was like back in the at the time of the Nintendo console, the first Nintendo console, and the Master System. So I started seeing, whoa, that there's like new possibilities of gaming, right? And I still love the Atari, of course, but I wanted the new ones, right? And I would eventually get the Master System, which was also a great experience for me. I loved those games. And then I think in this very formative years, right, the initial years, I have to mention as well the Genesis. Here we called it Mega Drive, which I think of this the three first consoles I had was by far the most fun, the console that gave me the most fun experience, the greatest experience. It still, I think, influenced me today, and I think that's part of the reason why I decided to make a beaten up because I loved the beaten ups of the Genesis,
true, true, true.
and
Old
I
school
think
games, yeah.
that's basically the how I became a gamer with these three first consoles.
Okay, nice. I love that. I love that. So you also like mentioned that your daily job is not connected to video games. Was it hard to transition from your everyday life to actually make games?
So when I started the video games, making my game, right? Uh, I actually, it was more like a hobby.
Okay.
In the beginning, I really didn't take it very seriously. It was actually, if you allow me to tell you how it all started.
Of course, of course, of course. That's why
Uh,
we are here. Of
yeah,
course.
right. I I had no idea. First of all, I had no idea. Back in 2019, I had no idea anyone could make a game.
Okay.
I was not at the time was not into the indie game scene. I wasn't very I actually wasn't much into games at all. I didn't play much. I was more focused with my work and also my wife, right? My We are about to have our child as well. So I was like, so there's also actually a possibility of making a game. Like you can download like a program, make your own game. I found out about that on YouTube with the tutorials. I think it was mainly unit tutorials. I also watched many Godot tutorials at the time, and I was like, "Oh, that's like something interesting." I think I'll just give it a try. Just make a very basic game, just to see if I actually can make something like that, right? And then I remember I tried uh, both systems, the units and the Godot, and I of course I at the time because of the abundance. There's so many tutorials of units. I decided, I think I'll try for real the units engine, right? And then I started, I think, with a very simple platform, and then I went to like a top-down game. I'm talking about a game that had no actual assets from me, uh, other than the scripts. Everything I took from other games. I just want to see how to move the character, how to kill an enemy, that's the sort of thing. Then I became increasingly no, interest in that, more and more captivated. I was like, oh, I think I'll actually make a real game, right? My game with my stuff. But of course, I used for first year, I used only assets from other games, mainly. Oh, by the way, the decision to make a beaten up, that was an important thing. I thought for a while, oh, what am I gonna make? What really can I engage myself with passion? And it has to be simple, of course, because I love some 3D games. My dream would be to make a game like Tenchu. I don't know if you know that
Yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah. I
It's
do, I do, I do. Yeah.
a stealth ninja. I absolutely love those games, and I was like, oh, that's my dream, but I cannot make that level of dream now make come true, right? I have
You
to
have to
be
wait a
realistic.
little bit.
Exactly. So I was like, I'm a total beginner. I'm still learning things. 3D is complex, so I'm going for 2D. The 2D genre that I love the most, or one of the genres that I love the most, is certainly beaten up. I decided I'll make a beaten up. I had no idea what was going to be about. I just thought I'm going to make a beaten up, and I use assets from fighting games just to reference to make you things learn how to move things, right? And that's how it started in the beginning. And then from a hobby, or like in the first year and a half was like a hobby. From then on, I started increasingly take it more serious, especially during the pandemic. I was like, oh, maybe now that I have more time, I can focus on this more. Maybe I can do something serious with it. And then that's how my game started really going, making great advances. I started really making like this must not have issues. This must have some degree of innovation. This must have it's as original design and visual as I can. And so I started all the other learnings I needed, like learning animation. 'Cause I had no idea how to animate. And then from that point forward, around the 2020, 2021, it went from a hobby to something like more than a hobby. And my job, I never left my job, thankfully. Otherwise, be in trouble now, right?
It
But
will be way harder.
yeah, yeah. Thankfully, I can do my job well. My boss trusts me to do my job, my real job well, while I can still dedicate myself to my hobby, right? That's basically that's how it went.
Okay, I see. Thank you for that. Okay, so by the way, were your family supportive about your decision that you want to make games, and your close friends as
Yeah,
well?
yeah, yeah, yeah. My wife was totally supportive. She was like, she even helps me testing the game and
Oh,
so
nice.
on.
Okay.
Friends and family, my parents, my sister, her husband, everybody. I think they gave me support. At least nobody's in opposition to that. Nobody said, "Oh, that's crazy. Drop that, give up on that." At least nobody came up with to me with that sort of talk. So yeah, I guess there's been support.
Do you think it's important to have supportive
Yeah,
surrounding people, crowd of
yeah,
people who supports you on the
definitely.
way?
Definitely. I mean, it's I guess since it's not the main thing right now, right? I can still maintain myself with my job, right? So I guess it's easier for people to support me that way. Otherwise, if I had actually left my
Yeah,
job,
that would be way harder for them to understand.
I
Yeah,
think perhaps my wife
they
would,
would think that you are
have a
so
different
crazy
attitude.
about it.
I can imagine that's yeah, I can imagine that kind of thing. So at least for now, things are okay. People are like, "Yeah, okay, go for it. It's
It's just a
fine."
hobby, even though
Yeah,
that you
it's
want
just a
to
hobby,
make
but
it a dream. Yeah.
yeah, although I don't treat it as a hobby anymore,
Oh, okay.
take it seriously. But I can still pay my bills, so everything's calm for now.
I love that hobby turned into passion at your life. I love that. I love that. So, what was the hardest part during the process so far of making your own game? If you can think about that.
The hardest part, mm, I think that I mean, there were many difficult moments, right?
Okay.
Uh, because each part of game making, I'm a solo developer, right? So you have like a you have to do the
Are you doing
coding, you
everything by
have
the
to
way yourself?
exactly
Okay.
except for the music and the sounds.
Okay.
The
Okay.
music I'm still considering some artists.
Okay.
Sound mostly I'm getting for free, but maybe I have to pay somebody to do some
Okay.
specific
Okay.
sounds.
Okay.
So apart from those things, everything else is I'm making, right? And I think each part of the process, like I start with coding, right? There were no design and no animation except for the game designer. There was no the characters you've seen so far. Nothing of that existed at the time, right? Back when I started in 2019. So I started with coding, and I had no experience whatsoever with coding. Was just like a totally new experience for me. So I had to not just watch YouTube tutorials, that sort of thing. I had to actually, see documentation, need to read some very complex instructions because it's not a joke, you know.
True. True.
When I started, I had the illusion that you can see all sorts of tutorials. Of course, I
It's way easier
just
than
link them.
you
Yeah,
thought.
that's it. Just learn from one and then join the knowledge from the other, and everything's gonna fit well, and I will have my game, right? No, that's not how it works. You have to, you have to actually learn the whole thing, the process, how the code actually
True. True.
interact with each part of it. So I still consider myself as a beginner, not a beginner, but an amateur. I cannot think of myself as a professional programmer because I still get confused sometimes. Like I still have to look basic things, especially when I don't see my code for a while. But I think I learned a lot, but it was difficult. It was hard in the beginning. Would often encounter bugs. I had no idea where they came from. I was like, "What the hell? Where's how could that happen?" Nowadays, thankfully, like almost 100% of the time, I can point exactly what happens when there's a bug. Like, oh, that's obviously was this that I did that caused that. Back then was a real struggle. Thankfully, was during the time of like a hobby. I guess, I was more patient. I was more like, oh, I'll take it this easy. It's a trouble, but I'll leave it for another day. It's no big deal, right? That's how coding was. But the process of animation was a whole different challenge for me as well. Since although I love animation in general and anime in particular, I had to actually study how the technique is applied, what is the technique, how it applies. And I was like, this thing is complicated, but I think I love doing it. I'll keep trying and trying. I even bought a drawing tablet
Nice.
for doing it
Yeah.
well. And I was like, I need to do it this well. I don't want to do something that it must not look amateurish. I want to do
True. True.
something
True.
like
True.
the animation that I love. So it took around, I think, more than 1 year of just practicing, uh, animating, designing. I actually
That takes
created
a lot
many
of
characters.
patience.
Exactly. It was like many characters I created, many animation states I created that I had to discard all of it because it was never, it was not up to standards that I thought were minimum, right? I was for over 1 year. I created many characters, like probably thousands of frames of animation that were like, to me now it's all garbage, but at least they served as a, to learn.
True.
I
True.
I
True. True.
learned.
You had to fail
in this
first
time,
in
and
order
now
to
I
be
think
successful in that, right?
exactly, exactly. So now I think, I mean, not that I cannot compare myself to real animator professionals or character design professionals, but I think I can do something that at least on my, my standards of amateur, it's kind of good enough.
I wouldn't
I'm
say you're an
satisfied with that.
amateur. Seeing your game on your Steam page, I wouldn't say you're an amateur, by the way. But we will discuss
Right.
that later.
Um,
I wouldn't say that. I
it's-
wouldn't say
it's-
that. So what interests me also from other topics as well about your game, that it's a very refreshing way that you move the camera way closer to the actual characters and the actual enemies that you are fighting against. So what was the idea behind that? Because if we can think about the old school beat 'em up games, the camera were way far, you know so
mm,
the characters were way like smaller, but your characters are bigger in a
awesome.
way, like the camera is way
Yeah,
closer. So what's the idea behind that? Because it's a
yeah.
refreshing experience to me to see a beat 'em up game like
Mm.
that. So
Yeah, actually, to be honest with you, I'm still in the process of, like, I had at first an idea of making, I want the characters to be big because I think, bigger is better, right? That was the basic instinct here, right? And I'm kind of more used to the visual of fighting game characters because I
I
use
see, I see, I
mostly
see, I see,
fighting
I
game
see,
characters on the
I see.
initial.
That makes sense now. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I think maybe this aspect of the game might have to change
Oh, okay. Yeah,
because
it's gonna
yeah,
be,
because
you
yeah,
cannot change.
yeah, I'm not gonna make them much smaller, but I'm testing smaller size because, for instance, just to give you an example, it's okay. For instance, when you most of the enemies you have to like slash them when they're close to you, and you can see most of them on the screen. But there are characters that I've created that they attack you from a distance. There are characters that I created that their behavior, that they're like the crazy character I created recently, right? You have to kind of see them. They have to be within screen for you to realize that, oh, that guy over there, he's danger. I think I have to deal with him right now. So, and the character's too big on screen, at least from the coding I've done some right now for the movements. It happens occasionally. Some of these characters, they appear off screen or not enough. They're not visible enough on screen. Maybe just a little bit of them
I
is
see, I see, I
visible.
see.
That's not okay, right? That's not okay. You have to telegraph to the player that, oh, here, player, there's right now a player, an enemy that is about to strike you. So he's a little bit different. He's a little bit far, and he's dangerous. So you have to look for that. I'm experimenting with a smaller size. I don't know how far small I go, but it will probably be smaller than now
I see.
because
Okay.
as gameplay is concerned, as far as playing
Understandable. Yeah. Yeah.
gameplay is
Makes
concerned,
sense. Makes
it
sense.
has to be improved. That's it.
I see. Okay, but I'm still happy that like you were trying to make this refreshing experience. Not that far away camera, but a little bit closer. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
so going to the story aspect of your game. So, what story you wanted to implement into your game, and was the story the very first that you invented or you've written for the game, or was it the gameplay itself first that you created?
Yeah, how the story came up much, much later. Even the idea
Okay.
of the beaten up with ninjas was not considered in the beginning.
Okay.
Since I think most of the characters I used for the tests in the beginning were from games from SNK, like King of Fighters, stuff like that. Right?
Okay.
They've all been removed, by the way. Okay, there's no remaining assets from these games left, right? But anyway, it was. I think in the beginning I had more of an idea of making a game like that. Like, I mean, of course, I beaten up. but with that style gameplay, so it actually wouldn't be so different from most normal beat 'em ups like Streets of Rage. It would be mostly guys brawling in the streets, right? But then when I started, like more than 1 year later, maybe much later, maybe 2 years later, I was like, oh, I have to come up with the actual story and the designs. I think back in the moment when I was trying animation, I was also trying design. And that this time I was like, I have to come up with the story now because there's no point in designing characters
True,
without
true, true.
their
Without the story or backstory,
background,
yeah,
yeah, the
exactly, exactly.
story, where it takes place. It makes no sense, right? I was like, oh, I have to come up with something. And after thinking a lot, I was, oh, okay, I like ninjas. Well, why not, right? I'll try ninjas. And I had no idea, you know, on how the actual, the final design would be at this moment because I was still, discarding a lot of stuff. I was like, oh no, this is garbage. I will not try that. But then in the end, I was like, okay, more or less, I have the direction I'm going, and I decided, look, I don't want my game to take place in the real historical setting of Japan, like the actual Sengoku era or the actual history of Japan. It has to be something like new, something that nobody can complain. Oh, the art design nothing to do with the Japan or something like that, right? I'm like, oh, I'll come up with something new for Japan, new feudal Japan, like something that's totally nobody can complain about new feudal Japan, right? Nobody has seen it yet, right? I come up with designs that I thought were kind of inspired by the history of Japan, traditional designs of clothes at the time, right? But I want to make them different and also easier, to be honest, because animating was the actual clothes, the weapons of the time. It would be hard if I went for fidelity, if I went for accuracy. I think the whole process of designing and animating would be a lot harder. I decided, no, I'll make it about neo-feudal Japan, so I can come up with new stuff, which is still inspired on Japan, on the real Japanese history, but I have more freedom,
I see, I see.
creativity.
Makes sense that, yeah. Okay, I see. So during the developing process of your game, how do you feel like as from being a developer, you changed as a person in other territories of your real life, and also what skills have you picked up as a person in other territories of your real life from or as from being a game developer yourself?
Well, as for the skills, I think maybe game development has taught me to be more focused on the
Okay,
long term planning, long term thinking,
okay.
because it's the sort of thing that I mean, you can't. It's not the sort of thing you have to be like, oh, I don't like how it's going, so I'm giving up on that. I'll
Just
try
give
something
up.
entirely new. No, you never get anywhere like that, right? So not that I was totally like that in the past, but I was not so much. I was not so much patient, I guess. I was not so much. I never had a project like this in my life
I
before.
see, I see,
You
I
know?
see.
No, and to be honest, I actually tried things in the past, like sports or other hobbies, like photography. I tried at one time in the past. I was like, oh yeah, that's I guess not for me. It's too expensive, and I would give up on that. And then it happened occasionally, to be honest, right? But with game development, I maintained. I think I was able to maintain discipline and long-term thinking, like, oh, this is something I'm stuck with, and I have to make it work because I think I can make it work, right? If it was completely hopeless, right? For instance, that part I told you about the bugs, right? Like,
True, true,
oh,
true.
where did that come from? And I never, even I never got rid of those things. Then I guess it would be wise to give up, right? That's not, thankfully, that's not being the case. I have evolved, I have improved, and so I guess it was easier for me to just keep on the path and maintain this project that is actually 5 years old.
It's a lot of
Next
years.
August, early next August, you complete 5 years. So since I started this game,
It's a lot of years, yeah. A lot of patience.
yeah,
What have kept you
yeah.
being motivated during those 5 years, almost 5 years, and not to give up?
Motivation, I think, mainly was a progress.
Okay.
You know,
So you've seen the progress, so
realize
that's what motivates you.
exactly, yeah, because getting trying something hard, trying as best as you can, and then not making significant progresses. It can be very
True,
frustrating,
true,
and
true, true.
I have experience, like I told you, other hobbies, other stuff, and I was like, oh no, I'm not making progress. It's not good for me, right? As with game development, I kind of saw, yeah, things are going sort of in the direction I want, so I'll keep doing it. I guess that's the greatest motivation. Of course, my family was also a big motivation, or my wife, and later my daughter. She likes my game,
Nice.
and those things kind of keep me, on this path. It's a difficult path, but I think I'm getting there, and it was all thanks to my family, and also to this perseverance, right? To the positive thinking, and seeing the progress being accomplished.
Love that. Love that. By the way, are you planning to add co-op mode to your game? Because I think that would fit into your game. Are you planning to do that?
Yeah, yeah. Certainly, certainly. All the beaten ups, the greatest beaten ups have co-op.
True, true, true.
Uh, you know, it's more difficult for me to test that because although my wife is always waiting to help me play it, I mean, she has to take care of her daughter. She has stuff to do, right? So it's not something that it's anytime I can test
True,
it.
true, true, true. When you need it,
It's more
right?
difficult. Exactly. I'm considering calling some people who have shown willingness to help me, through that I met on the internet. I'm willing to eventually try that. For now, I'm still focused on other stuff. I know that the co-op mode still needs a lot of testing.
Yeah.
There's probably still bugs left, but that's my plan. I think this kind of genre, beaten up, is always more fun with
With
people playing
friends,
with
yeah,
you.
exactly.
So it has to have co-op. The only problem I see for now, I mean, the major limitation I have is that although I've created four playable characters,
Okay.
I think four player mode is not viable. Now, I hope I can make it viable eventually. A two-player has been the safest option for now, and only local co-op, by the way, no multiplayer. So both the multiplayer mode and the four-player co-op mode, or maybe multiplayer, are things that I consider doing, but I haven't, I haven't taken actual steps into making.
I
I
see.
have to, I have to be careful. I have to go one step at a time, make each thing work well. So first two-player mode, it's fine. Then I'll
Then the
try. Maybe
rest, yeah.
hopefully I'll try the rest.
Okay. Would you like players to have the ability to be with the same four characters, or would you like to have your game as for like if four players are playing together as friends, then they have to choose different characters?
Uh, at first, I made it impossible to choose the same character.
Okay.
I think it's more of my own taste. Maybe two of the same characters, people playing. It's no, at least for me, it wasn't. I want to maybe actually maybe have some competition between the players. Maybe at the start of the select screen, they would be like, "No, I want this. I want this." No, maybe they'll fight first for their favorite characters. Maybe if there is enough demand, like, "Oh, I want to play the same character. I mean, I love this character so much, and so does my my friends. So we both want this guy or that girl. So can you please add the possibility? It's easy. I would be just change a line of code. I can do that. But for now, I included this limitation that doesn't allow you for choosing both players choosing the same character.
I see. Okay. But by the way, that would be an interesting option before the match or before the level, that actually two players have to
Yeah,
fight like in a Street Fighter, right? To in order to,
yeah,
gain the possibility to
yeah,
take control over a character. That would be insane. Like it would be a refreshing
yeah,
experience to see. Yeah.
yeah, like versus mode between players, right? I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
many
exactly.
beaten
Like
ups have
fight
that.
for the own of the character, or to control the character. That would be
Yeah,
sick. Like I haven't seen that in any game. Yeah.
maybe they initially they can choose both the same character. And whoever wins gets to play it.
Yeah,
We can
exactly.
see that
I
possibility.
love that. I love that. I love that. That's a sick option for your game. Okay. So as we discussed that you also would like to work with a music composer, right? That you're still looking for a music composer.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What
Yeah,
kind of
I
music
found
would
a
you
guy.
think? Oh, I'll go for that. Sorry.
No, sorry, sorry. The music has to be, like traditional Japanese,
Okay. Okay.
maybe with some modern elements. I'm still considering that, depending on the sort of modern elements. I'm to be totally honest, I'm not a very good with music. I'm not a music connoisseur, and I
Okay.
don't.
Okay. Okay.
No, yeah, I'm not. I'm not a. It's not my area, So there are music that I like. I can tell that, There's that this music I think would be fine with that. But the problem, I think, the major problem is like if you have to hire a musician, you have to know how to describe, right? Like I want something that's maybe have a little bit of music knowledge to to make it easier for the artist get it right. I don't want to simply pick like existing music, like, oh, there's this song here or this track here, like can you make something similar to that but not equal equal to that, because that could have copyright issues. I, I don't think that would be good. I would like to have to let the musician to have their own freedom of creation,
Okay.
but I actually found a Japanese musician. I actually haven't talked to him yet. I mean, he's Japanese, so maybe that makes me a little bit concerned. Also have to check with him how much he would charge. That's also a concern of mine.
Okay.
But he has made many music. He's actually already created many tracks, and I bought two of those. He makes it clear that, oh, you bought the tracks, so you can use it however you see fit. And I've only used those for just for the videos I've created. But I'm still considering. But I'm planning to use those. I mean, if in the end I decide for him, I'm going to use many of those music he has created already. But I'll probably have to hire him to make new ones.
True. 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 True.
Totally exclusive for the game. And that's the part where I'm still kind of okay. I'll get there eventually, but right now I'll just keep that in the um, you know um, for later. I'll consider that later.
Okay. I see. I see. I see. I see. By the way, are you planning to release your game to other platforms as well, like not just PC but consoles as well?
It would depend on how far the sales goes.
Okay.
The sales go. Uh, Steam, of course, is the easiest
True.
platform.
True.
It
True.
has little barrier. Anybody can just pay the $100, and anybody can put their game there. So for me, I'm like I told you before, I'm not. I may not be a hobbyist anymore, but I'm not quite a professional yet. I'm still evaluating how far I want to go with this. So I'll release on Steam first, and then see. Oh, it's going well enough for maybe the other platforms, why not, right? And I think there's actually a better chance of doing well in in the consoles, right? Because most beaten up fans,
Are
they
more for
love the
consoles.
Nintendo
Yeah, exactly.
Switch, yeah, and also the PlayStation. You know,
True,
there's
true.
a lot of
Hmm.
consumers who love this type of game who are kind of, I mean, it's their preference. They prefer to play on consoles.
True, true. And local
So
play is
I have
also a
to
thing
consider
that
that.
people are missing, in my opinion. So we, as kids, we used to play local games a lot together, but nowadays people are just more
Yeah,
willing to play online because they are, not
exactly.
recruiting their friends
Yeah,
in order to play a game on couch co-op, or with the option of couch co-op,
yeah,
yeah. Which is sad because it's fun. You can knock
yeah.
somebody when
No,
you're
yeah,
while you're playing.
exactly. The best experience I had with playing games back the time of my youth on the Genesis, especially on the Genesis, was playing co-op with friends
True,
and
true, true, true.
cousins. You know, it was great. You know, I think that's why I chose beaten ups in the first place because it was
Love that, love
so
that.
great to play with other people. But nowadays, I have to admit, it's kind of not so common. You know, it's more like multiplayer. And I never got into multiplayer. By the way, I never played multiplayer. Not because lack of access or anything. I just kind of not my thing. You know,
I see.
for me, it's either single player or co-op. You know, no multiplayer for me.
Okay, okay, I see. So I believe that all the creators who make forms of art like games, they are willing to, if even if it's not an intentional level, but they are willing to put their inner self and their experiences from, for example, childhood and other parts of their
Mm.
adulthood into the game that they are crafting. Is that true for yourself as well? That there are some experiences, elements, characters,
Sure.
memories from you, from your
Yes, certainly.
past that you have put into your game? We
Yes,
talked
certainly.
about it
I'm
because
very,
like you made a beat 'em up game. It's from your experiences as a
yeah.
child. But is there
It
another
starts with the
topic?
genre.
Okay.
Yeah, it starts with the genre. I love beaten up since my youth, so it had to be a beaten up, right? But the other elements of the game, there are certainly many influence in my youth. I guess sometimes they're even, like subconscious, not even aware of it, But at least most of the time, I think it's kind of there. Like, yeah, I think I make this more like that series, that character I love so much. If not copying, of course, I don't copy, but like, oh, if I kind of give him that personality, or if I kind of give him that sort of, of that aura, that sort of strength, and the fierce look, and I guess the most influential things in terms of story and design have been Japanese anime, from the 90s, especially in late 80s until the late 90s, because those are the kind of things that I watched, when I was young, and I loved it. Many titles of the time, and I was like, oh, that it's so great. So I still watch them once in a while. I actually prefer anime from that time than those of today. And I was like, oh, if I make a game and it's about ninjas, right? Since I decided it had to be about ninjas, why not? Something kind of inspired, never copied, because I want the whole, uh, you know, plagiarism. But I was like, oh, maybe if I do something that looks kind of fierce, and the design kind of inspired from, say, Ninja Scroll, for instance, and even anime that are not about ninjas. Some mecha anime, like Zeoraimer, for instance. That's another one I like a lot. Although there are no mechas for now, I do love them. There are no mechas, but it's kind of the visual of the game that influenced me. Like, oh, if I create something like that anime, an alternative version of Japan, or a strange Japanese clan, like a cult, so those anime from that time, from the stories to the designs to the animation techniques, they have certainly influenced me a lot. I openly admit, my game is heavily inspired by the anime, and even perhaps some Japanese movies as well, but mainly anime from that time.
Okay, I see. I see. Okay, so you also mentioned like you will be working on this game like for 5 years now. So what's the release date plan for you since that you have been working so much on your game, so much years or so many years?
It's more like a hope that I can release it by the middle of next year.
Okay.
I cannot be totally sure, because although the game is mostly bug free, it's at least so far the kind of game breaking bugs have been, I haven't found it and for a while. But there's some aspects of the game that are important, like the game design itself, how the players will progress throughout the game. I created four different characters, and I was hoping that I could create like different paths for each of them, not the same exactly stages for each of them in the same order.
Okay.
I was thinking like more like, oh, this character is going to follow this path, this and that background with facing this and that enemy as a boss, while that character will have a different path. And I'm still in the process of organizing that. I'm always, I think the worst part of game design, as for everything else, I guess, is a lack of decision, right? Like being undecided, like, oh, I could make this way, but I just gave up. I'll try something else. It's not quite what I want. That kind of thing is really, on the creative aspect of my game has been really difficult to deal with. I'm trying to kind of settle on this is going to be, the game is going to be this way, and I have to stick with it. I have to stick with it. I have to make it happen. It has to finish at one point, right? So there's that. I think that issue. Now, like I told you, there's the co-op. I have to test it a lot. The game as a whole, I still have to build it, with all the levels after I make the final decision, and I have to test that thoroughly. And only after that, can I, safely release the game. I don't want to release a broken game or a
True.
game with
True, true, true.
issues
Understandable.
that could annoy the player, right?
True, 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 true. Okay. So you were also talking about earlier that you were influenced by a lot of old school games, and I believe that old school games were way harder in the sense that they are now, as for their difficulty. So, what was the goal with your game's difficulty? Would you or did you want it to be as hard as old school games, as old school beat 'em up games, or you wanted to give the freedom for the players that they should be able to choose difficulty or something in
Yeah.
between, like a middle difficulty or not that hard, not that easy? What was your goal about that?
Yeah. Yes. So yeah. Uh, Old games are still hard for me, to be honest. Even after playing them so much, I still sometimes I play Streets of Rage 2, which is my favorite beaten up of all time, and
Okay.
and I get beaten before the boss. So maybe I'm getting rusty. That's maybe part of it, but that's that can be frustrating for me. So maybe because of that, and because of my own limitations, from what I've done so far, maybe my game would be easier than those. But when the kind of feedback I got when I for a while I made the demo of the game available on itch.io, and the common feedback I got was like, oh, your game is about ninjas that use swords, and you have the block button, right? You can supposedly parry their attacks, but they're too fast, right? There's not enough telegraphing, you know. and I was like, so maybe I got too used to how the gameplay goes, and the new players are like, wow, that's too much for me. I can't quite follow it. So I was considering in terms of difficulty. On some parts of it, I have to make it easier. You know, I think it's totally fair complaint. I have to make most enemies somewhat easily have an easier telegraphing move.
Okay.
I'll make let some bosses still be hard, kind of hard. That's I think one part that we need a lot of testing because I want the game to maintain some level of challenge. You know, I don't want players to get through everybody, all the enemies easily.
Speed run it, yeah.
But yeah, that's the sort of thing that still need a lot of testing. You know, the
Yeah.
balancing aspect of it, and hopefully that's the sort of thing that players might be more forgiving. Say if I release the game and it's too difficult, and I get a lot of complaints about that, I can easily change that. You know, it's the
Okay.
sort of thing that I made a lot of variables that you can make enemies slower, enemies kind of dumber in a way. You know, so but ideally, of course, I'll probably create difficult levels, at least two difficult levels, like a normal level, a hard
I
level.
see.
If there's enough time and enough, if I can, make maybe make the system more flexible. I can add more difficulty because it's not just those variables I told you. It's not just making enemy dumbbirds. There are other things that play into the challenge that actually makes the game fun. You know, just
True,
making
true, true.
enemies dumbbirds lower. It's not enough,
It's
right?
not the
You have to
case.
think of
Yeah.
other ways to make change the game either easier but still fun, or harder and still fun for those who enjoy it.
True, true,
Like a
true.
suffering through the gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. Okay, so you also mentioned that your dream would be like to continue with making games in the future after releasing Shibatsu. So my two questions goes from that. So first of all, would you like to like first update with some free or paid DLCs your game, or would you like to do another game? And if another game, that do you have like already ideas for other games as well?
I think both options I would consider seriously.
Okay.
I love the game I'm making, so I'll not just release it and just let it there, even if it sells well or even if it sells badly. I think I'll add a few things because it's a passion project, right? There probably maybe some enemy bosses I
Okay.
could turn
Okay.
into playable characters, that sort of thing. So it would be actually my pleasure if I had the opportunity to add stuff. As for future plans, uh, you know, maybe I could make a sequel to Shobatsu. Maybe a Shobatsu 2, or maybe try something else entirely. I, I, I guess I kind of haven't got to that stage of thinking about later, but maybe I'll do a Shobatsu too. That's a strong possibility. It's easier to
Okay.
continue with that which you already used, but I'd love to have other creative opportunities as
Like
well.
you would
If I
be
could create,
making the second part fully free the game, like right that you wanted to.
yeah,
That would be also
yeah,
like a dream
exactly.
come true.
And maybe who knows? Who knows? Like I told you in the beginning, I love Tenshu.
Tenshu, yeah,
Shinobido as well is also a great
yeah.
stealth game. If I could make dreaming is a possibility, right? I can still dream, right?
Imagine a
So
free
if
D
I
beat 'em
could
up.
make something, yeah, if I could make something like that, I absolutely love. But both genres and also other genre of games are could be, I could consider because I like so many.
True, true, nice. By the way, would you regret if you have not started making games? How do you feel about that? Since you are making your own game like for almost 5 years now,
Mhm.
how do you feel about that?
I think I would. I think I would because it's not just the game; it's the animation, for instance. Animation could use for other things. I could maybe animate, make short animation, animated stories. So it's something I learned that I'm really, thankful that I had the opportunity. Uh, Programming, I can't dare to say, oh, I could, I'm so good at it. I could try going to this
It's
career.
still a
No, I
learning
don't think I,
process, so you can
yeah,
pick up the
no, no
skills.
daring. I cannot dare something like that. But certainly designing characters, animating, if I could make that, even if it's just a hobby in the future, making short animations, stuff like that, I think I would like, it's something that I think I'm really fortunate that I had this opportunity of creating. So I can say that the game has been positive to me, right? Also, in that sense.
Okay. Do you think that you find yourself by making your own game?
And I what?
Did you find yourself in life? Like you are at the right
Yeah,
spot now?
certainly. Yeah, certainly. I mean, when you start a career in a job that's, I mean, it's not that I don't like the job that actually pays my bills. No, I'm thankful for that, right? But it's not my passion. It's not something that, oh, I really wanted to be an auditor. It's my dream job, that sort of thing. So, it's something that, having game development as an option in life, has really contributed to me. Has really made me grow. Like I told you, I know in so many ways I never expected. Like long term planning, uh, patience, perseverance. And adding new knowledge that I actually think is not only useful but it's also fun. Things that I love doing. So in that sense, it changed me and for the better, certainly.
I see. Okay, I love that. I love that. Can you see yourself as making games in the future as well? What do you think about that?
Certainly, certainly. I'd love to continue. Even if my game doesn't do that well, why not? Why not consider maybe a smaller projects? It also depends on
I
my other
hope it
job,
will
right?
go well because your game has a lot of,
Uh,
like I said, new experiences, and like we discussed it
Sure.
earlier, that would be fun to have like a versus mode when people can fight for the option to control a character. Yeah.
Anything figure out. I mean, that's the sort of thing that motivates me as well. Seeing other people say, "Oh, your game is it's like it's like something I
Yeah.
like. I would like to play it.
No.
When can I play it? When's there going to be a demo again? Because I released the demo at one time and then I suspended because I wanted to make so many additions, so many changes, right?
I see.
And I got people to ask, I want to see it again. I'm like, well, there's some people who appreciate it, so that's kind of thing that gives them that extra motivation that's always needed. All the motivation is all welcome. Especially from the public, those who appreciate my work.
Nice. Okay, so I also have a question about that ties to difficulty that we discussed it earlier. So since I believe that beat 'em up games, we discussed it earlier, old school ones way was or were way harder than nowadays games, and that was the aspect of them to be longer in a way, like
Mm.
players have to be there and learn the game, and they have put more time and effort to play the game through. So what is your
Yeah,
goal with the length of your game if you want to tune down the difficulty to like a middle stage?
yeah, that's an interesting question. Very interesting. That's something that as a developer I need to find a balance, right? I
Yeah.
need to. I cannot make the game that easy because all beaten ups, I think they have to be kind of short.
Yeah, true. And
beaten
that's
up,
the
yeah, the
difficulty
beaten
that
up
helps
genre.
being like a longer, because you feel like it's long, but
Yes,
in fact it's just a learning process that you have to go over with in order to, yeah, finish the
yeah,
game and beat the last boss. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Because I think of beaten ups like it's the sort of game that demands so much of the player. Like, oh, you have
Exactly,
to,
exactly.
it's too much button pressing, you find reflexes, and difficult bosses and that sort of thing. I mean, I know in the past they had limitations, system limitation. They couldn't have like a save system. It's not as we have today for the Genesis and
Yeah,
the Super Nintendo and the Master System. At most, you had like the password. Oh, you got to this point. There's a password for you. But beat 'em ups usually, at least as far as I remember, they didn't have that sort of
yeah,
thing.
exactly. They
You
did
either
not
beat
have.
it or
You had to, like, you
yeah,
had like 3 or 4 or 5 live at total,
yeah,
and you had to
you
start
had
it
the
all
lives and
over.
then
Yeah,
yeah, and the continues,
yeah,
right? And if you finish with all of that, lost all lives and all the continues, that's it. You got beaten. You
yeah,
gotta try
exactly.
everything all over again. And people at the time they were willing to play again. Oh, I'm
Sure,
gonna
sure.
do it again, no
Yeah,
matter
they
how many
put more
times.
money, in arcade machines.
In the case of arcade machine was the coin.
Yeah,
It was part of the business. You wanted to make the
exactly,
games
exactly,
hard,
exactly.
but also very interesting because we wanted those coins, right?
Yeah,
But I mean, it's totally different when you're releasing a game for a modern audience and the Steam, right?
true, true, true.
Or consoles. So, for instance, I haven't decided yet about the save system. I don't know if it should have a save system or not. Maybe only a save system. I mean, certainly a save system for like, oh, you beat in the game, you got an extra, like a prize or something. Here, it's saves, right? That sort of saves, okay. I've decided that's okay, but the save in the middle of the game, like, oh, this boss is too difficult, I'm gonna save it. Allow the player to save it before him or her to let them have as many chances as they want. Maybe, maybe not. I haven't decided. I think I'm tending more not allowing that sort
Yeah,
of
that's what
thing.
I wanted to say. It's
I
like
Yeah,
it would be the perfect option to choose not having the save
yeah,
options or
yeah,
chances. Yeah.
and the game has to be short. The game has to be short. It
Yeah.
has to be like
Imagine like a 10-hour
no
beat
more.
'em up.
Yeah, exactly. No, it can't be more than 2 hours.
Yeah, true,
I
true,
think the
true.
ideal would be between 1 hour and 1 hour and a half, and add maybe, oh, you can take another path, next gameplay, or
Or
if
secrets or
that's something.
mysteries. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Something that gives you options to decide. Oh, I'm in this gameplay with this character. I'll try path B instead of path A. Right.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes to extend. Uh, um, the duration of gameplay to extend the replayability. So I'll probably go in that direction.
Okay.
That's probably the way I'm going.
I see. Okay. So we discussed a lot of topics. Are you down to answer some questions from my stream as well before I will ask some more questions?
Sure,
Nice, 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 nice.
sure. You're all welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let us know if you have any questions. Hölgyek, urak, kérdezzetek nyugodtan. Kérdezzetek nyugodtan. Let me open up my... I almost closed my chat. Is there any questions that you would like to ask? Let us know. Let us know. Van bármilyen kérdés? So Minnie is asking that she captured that in your games, or at least on the screens and on the videos that you shared about your game. The main dominance color is red. So is it a symbol of something, or is it just a symbol of dominance?
Mm, I think it was more like a design choice.
Okay.
Like I want to, since I decided, oh, I'm going to make this about ninjas
Okay.
and Japan, and Japanese flag is also red in the middle,
True,
and
true, true, true.
it's a common. I mean, from of course, I before this deciding on the final design of the game, I searched for many other games involving ninja, all sorts of games involving ninjas. Partly to have inspiration, partly also to make sure that I'm not, making something that's too similar to something that already exists, right? And the red as a color, I think, came from that. Like, oh, I want something. Red is a very impactful color, right? And of course, in a game like that, I guess the idea that comes to mind is maybe, there's like swords, like blades. Maybe it means red or something like that. Maybe it means blood or something like
Blood,
that,
yeah.
right? The red means blood. But might mean, maybe subconsciously, but in the game, I decided not to include, at least not the kind of blood that you see in other games, like the flowing animated blood from the battles. At most, I might add like there's like a background I made where you find the soldiers from Allied soldiers that have been killed. There's like a like dark spots of blood all over. Uh, in that sense, like more like a background frame, but never in the gameplay. That's partly I decided because including blood. Um, it would mean probably having to add more animations like amputations, maybe decapitations, and that's not the thing for me, right? I don't want to go that far in the violence. I think the game should be perhaps more accessible to people who
To everyone, yeah, without
uh,
blood or using blood. Yeah, exactly.
more people that appreciate just the gameplay and not so much. I mean, I could maybe include some blood, but never the extremes of. But it wouldn't make sense, right? I mean, if
Yeah,
you have a
exactly,
sword
exactly.
and you slashing people, it has to end in arms and legs,
True, true,
flowing
true, true.
all over the place. And I decided, oh, maybe just not include the
Maybe
blood,
that's
just
too
include
much.
the yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll just include some cool special effects I'm still working on. The things that you've seen so far, just kind of placeholders, right?
Okay.
Just stick to that and not go in that direction. But the red, I think, is interesting as a color for maybe the more of the subconscious it sends to the player. It's about conflict. It's about passion. It's about maybe fighting for one's cause at any cost. Maybe that sort of message. Maybe some people understand blood for that, but if those who want really, a lot of blood, then they'll probably be disappointed.
Thank you for that. Okay, there is also a question from many. Uh, I think that we discussed this topic, but yeah, what the question is that what process of during the game development was the hardest to do?
If I had to choose the hardest of all,
Yeah.
uh, oh, I can say that while animating was hard and took longer, but it
Okay.
wasn't the hardest.
Okay.
It wasn't the hardest. I mean, it wasn't the hardest maybe because it was a pleasure for me. It wasn't so frustrating. Uh, I would say the hardest part was most certainly the coding. Coding, it still is, hard, not as hard as in the beginning. I got a hang of it for the most part, but it's still kind of challenging. Every time I decide, what if I include this feature? I think it would be interesting to include this feature. And it's always a challenge. It's always a challenge. It's like, oh, I have to really have control over what I'm making in order to make sure it's not causing trouble in other parts of the game, other parts of the code. So it's always something that requires a lot more patience, a lot more effort, a lot more concentration, and all the learning I've accomplished so far. It's still not enough. That's why I told you I cannot in any way call myself even close to becoming a professional because
You will
it's
get there,
still
I'm sure of
challenging.
it. You will get there.
Hopefully, but it's hard. It's hard. It's something that It's easier now, but it's still a challenge for me.
I see. Okay. So the question will come from me now. So we talked about that you're also like want to release your game on consoles as well, since the beat 'em up genre is more for console players than PC players. But here comes the question from that: are you like planning to add controller supports to the PC version, or it's like already built into the game?
Yeah, yeah. It's have I haven't tested all the controls, but I
Okay.
part of the one of the I mean, the one asset that I acquired. I don't know if I can say it here. Maybe it's kind of an ad. It's a good one.
No, you
Can I say
can, of
it?
course, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's Rewired. Rewired. It's a
Okay.
very good uh, uh, um, asset that's available that I've used that really saved me a lot of time, a lot of effort in that area of control, control configuration, control, making all sorts of control compatible with the game. So in that area, I'm more confident. I think since it's something that I didn't do directly, I kind of use this asset for making the job easier and also more efficient. I think in terms of control, I think it has a good support. There's nobody so far has complained about lack of control support. The only complaint I got from the demo in terms of control was more like the keys that I use on the keyboards for controlling the character, put them in very awkward positions. So people are like, "Oh, how am I supposed to play when I have to put the hands like this?" How do you expect me to play like this, right? And I'm like, "Oh, well, yeah, good point." It's something that I left for my own, for my own testing. I was used to testing the game that way, right? And I left it there because I forgot, right? And people reminded, no, you have to put the keys in the proper place. So it was mostly that, the lack of proper settings, but other than that, it's been fun. Of course, I'll keep testing. I'll ask the testers that I call in the future to, oh, if you have another type of controller, bring it here to, bring it to play it, because I want to make sure that everything will be covered. There will be no lack of support.
I see. Okay. So one thing that I haven't asked from you. So in terms of combat, what core aspects you always wanted to give as the core elements, for the players? So what kind of attacks, blocks, parries? What was the goal with that? Like, how many attacks, how
Yeah,
many blocks, how many parries? What kind of
yeah,
combinations of moves? Jump
yeah.
attacks,
It's
for
kind of simple
example.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah, the controls, I try to make them as simple as possible.
Okay.
Of course, there's always limitations. There's always a way to improve them.
Okay.
But I try not to go too far in that direction, not making control too complicated, because beaten ups, as you know, has to be simple. You have
True,
to
true,
make the
true.
experience.
Simple attack,
Uh,
heavy
the,
attack,
the, the,
block, parry. Yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, actually, block. That's one thing that I added that most beaten ups don't have.
Yeah, true, true,
It's
true.
kind of
They rather
it's
have
a
like a
gamble you're
dodge or
making.
jump out of the action.
Yeah, in dodges I might add more. There's one for the boss battles only. You can use like a um, backdash move
Okay.
only during boss battles.
Okay.
But I want to make the controls as intuitive as possible. I want the players to learn very quickly, how to control.
Okay.
So the challenge is more to make, how to make this, for instance, this the blocking button, how to make it actually useful. Because if like the people who they send me feedback, they told you it's too fast the enemies. How am I supposed to use the block button? So I still have to work in that area. But the other buttons, I think that the only other addition that I made that's not usual is because there's like two attack buttons for normal attacks. Whereas most beaten ups they have like only one normal attack button and one special attack, right? Mine you have a two normals and one special, and I wanted to make the most out of it. Like, oh, you can have more combination, more attack combinations, but I also have to give the incentive of, because if one of the buttons, or one of the normal attacks is like stronger than the other weak, why would the player use the weak one, right?
True,
Why?
true, true, true,
There
true.
has to be a reason,
That
right?
makes sense, yeah.
I'm still working on that. I'm making the strong button, even the normal one, not the special. The special, of course, will have like a cost to the player to use, but there will be also cost to the player to use the normal, stronger button. So to make things more balanced and not the player to rely just one or two buttons to achieve,
I
right,
see.
the success in the game.
Maybe like the hard one is like the shield breaker, right? And the quick one is like to, in order to combo
It
it.
could be, for instance, the special attack. I've added an exclusive like strength, extra strength that breaks most enemy blocks.
I
Not
see, I
all
see,
of
I see.
enemies. I want some few bosses to be a real pain. I want some bosses to be like more challenging, more really a lot more challenging, right? And that's something I still need to test, of course. So it's not final. Maybe the tester will say, no, you cannot have certain characters to resist, right? You're special, right? But that's something that I did for the special attack. The stronger attacks just like a little more damage
I see, I
with
see,
a
I see.
little cost. So it comes actually the biggest cost of this the strong normal is losing the possibility of using special.
I
The
see.
more you use the strong normal, because it's easier during battle to perform it, the more it's more difficult to use the special, or the special will cost even more because the special when the I don't know if you remember the video. There's in the corner. There's a blue circle that indicates the amount of key or energy, right, that you
Yeah,
have. When that's over, you start to losing your own health, which is the case of most beaten ups. By the way, they go straight to losing health. Mine, you have
yeah.
the first bar, the blue bar. If you don't have that anymore, you start losing health.
True, true, true.
That's all. That's all balancing thing I'm trying to get, but that's the basic setup that I created.
Okay, I see. Okay, so any more questions before I will also ask my final question? Any more questions from the stream? Hölgyek, urak, bármi kérdés, mielőtt kérdezek egy utolsót? Let us know. Let us know. Let us know. Let us know. Let me see if I haven't missed any questions here. Any more questions? Hölgyek, urak, bármi kérdés? So we talked about like the hardest part of making your own game, but I wonder what was your favorite part of making your own game?
Well, of all the many different parts, I think it's the designing,
Okay.
art design part I love the most. Animation, like I told you,
Okay.
it's something that I also find pleasurable, but it's a lot of work. Like it's good to make, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of sometimes I get something wrong. I have to correct it because, as you know, animation has to be consistent,
True, true, true.
and something I always you need to pay attention. So it requires more concentration. Whereas just designing the characters is a lot more freedom, a lot more. It's it's actually something that I've always done. Since my youth, I always like to draw characters. Before anime, I also draw yeah, like cartoon characters. Then when I started watching anime, I started drawing not just my own characters that I created, but also fan art. I would draw my favorite characters from my favorite series. It's something that since my early, at least early teenager years, I've always liked to doing. So that's I think the best part of gaming development for me.
Okay, I see. Okay, closing question. If there is no question from my stream, so what? So I believe that every creator, like you also told me, that has a message with the creation of their work and craft. So what's the message hidden in your game? How do you feel about that? Even if it's the story, or even if it's the gameplay or the vibe that has this deep message or message that you are trying to give for the players, or is it a feeling of
Well,
your experiences?
no, that's a very good question. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot. That's inclusive one of the things that make me undecisive about where the story should go. Because I want to send a positive message. Maybe I want maybe to contribute something. Like like that gives more, maybe something more. It's difficult to say, but I want to contribute to the player somehow. I want to make the player not just like the game itself, not just fun, not just the design that they find hopefully attractive, but also I want to give a positive, create constructive. I guess that's the word I want to use. Constructive message, something that the player can come out. Oh, that's nice. Hopefully, since I still am undecided, I cannot even claim to that's something that I can add to the game. And, by the way, something that I think it's useful to add. Beaten ups, they usually don't have much in terms of story, right?
True, true, true,
Most
true.
players
They are
want
more
just
just
go
fun. Yeah,
straight to
that's
action.
what I want. That's why I
It's like
asked
so,
this, because your game
yeah,
on an intention level has a way deeper story than other beat 'em ups, and I love the fact that it's also like a refreshing experience for the players, because when I
yeah,
first saw the trailer of and videos that you posted on Twitter about your game, I realized that okay, it's not a usual beat 'em up. It's not a common thing for beat 'em ups to have this deep level of story and design, and it's like that
yeah,
mysterious something hidden in the game, and that's why I asked the message
yeah.
of your game. Yeah.
Oh, that's at least my hope. I hope I can accomplish that, but
Okay.
it's so many things I have to consider.
I see.
Since beaten ups have to be kind of short, it's particularly in the stories. You can't really like every 20, 30 seconds, or at least at the end, or as every stage, or a 10 or 20-second cutscene. And most
True, true, true,
most players
true.
will probably like, oh, so I have to kind of balance that. I have to learn how to make something as short as possible and still try to give a constructive, positive message.
It's true.
So that's something I'm still struggling. I might in the end just decide, oh, I'll just give a good ending, not something that requires a lot of background and a lot of like a character story, or too much of the background story, like
True,
the
true,
the, the
true.
history of the thing. That's something I'm still working, but my hope is I can achieve that.
I see. Yeah, but beat 'em ups, by the way, that also would be an option, that like beat 'em up games, or some, at least some of them, had the story driven by during the gameplay. Like there was a narrator and telling the story, or the characters were talking to each other during the fight. That could be also like an option for you. Like what I'm getting to, like not having like that many cutscenes, but during the fights, like characters talking to each other, like.
Yeah, you mean like it's some kind of
Yeah,
interaction,
exactly,
a
exactly.
kind of
Like that's how the
yeah,
story like would be added
yeah,
to.
exactly.
Yeah, because then
That's
then
one
you
option.
don't have to like
Yeah,
cut into pieces with always having the option to use cutscenes. Yeah,
yeah.
that's just
Maybe
an idea. I
some. I
mean,
mean, like,
like,
yeah. No, it's a good idea. I maybe I'll consider doing like very short cut scenes, like every stage like has an introduction thing that doesn't take much of the
yeah,
player patience. Always skippable, by the way. Even if it's just like 8 seconds, 7 seconds, just if you want to skip that, it's okay. But like I said before, I'm planning to make maybe different paths for the player. Like, oh, you can choose path A, which means you do something that has certain impact on the story, or you can choose B, and that would be involved in the story, not just choosing a different door, right?
True, true,
Like
true, true,
some
true.
games just choose, oh, I
Yeah,
want to
it's
go
not
that way, maybe
impacting the
it's
story.
different.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, something more like the
it's
story,
just a
just the
new item.
characters interacting. Exactly. Do something like that. You say characters interact. How do you respond to that? Again, can't be too much of that unless if I chose to make maybe an RPG style, more like a Dragon's Crown style game, but that's too
Love that
ambitious for
game. I
me
love
right
that
now.
game. Yeah,
Yeah, that game is spectacular, right? But I
yeah.
cannot dare to go that far, right? So I have
By the way,
to
that was the
kind
game
of
that I
tone down.
mentioned that had like the closer camera. Yeah, you mentioned it. I forgot the name of that game. I love
Yeah,
that. That game was like,
yeah,
oh my god. Yeah, that
it's
was also like a
spectacular.
refreshing experience for beat 'em ups, and it was a long game. I remember
Yeah,
that it was like a
yeah.
almost 10-hour game or 12-hour game
Yeah.
long. Yeah,
Very, very long,
long
very,
game.
very immersive.
Yeah,
It was an RPG with
yeah.
beaten up
True, true, true. And it was also
gameplay.
hard. I
So it
remember
was,
that it was also hard.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, very hard. But those are I mean, of course, yeah, these games can always influence me,
true,
but
true, true, true.
I went into the direction of more simple games. I guess if I had to choose one game that influenced me the most would be, even though it doesn't look anything like it, even though there are many different. I think the game, the beaten up game that comes closest to perfection is Streets of Rage 2. It's the game that is everything that fits well together. It's the great gameplay, it's the right duration, it's the right interaction that players have. It might be a linear, but it's the great kind of linear. It works
Yeah,
very well because it has replayability.
true,
You
true,
want to
true,
play again and again.
true.
So that's more the direction I went. Right.
True, true, true. Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's ask the stream if there is any closing question from them. Hölgyek, urak, bár más kérdés? Ladies and gentlemen, any closing question before we call it an end today? Let us know. Any closing question? Bármi más kérdés a játékkal kapcsolatosan? By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I shared the game Steam page in the chat. So don't forget to wishlist. Oh, by the way, I know what we haven't discussed. We talked about it before our interview. The marketing part, right?
Ah,
Yeah, you wanted me to ask you, and I
that's
forgot
the part that
it.
hurts.
Yeah, so that will be a good closing question. The
Okay.
marketing part. Let's talk about that. What can you say about
Uh,
that?
well, marketing is something that really has been challenging. That there's people who are good at marketing, great at marketing. I'm definitely not one of those people.
Okay. I
It's
think it's
something that
it's it's
requires
true for all
something.
creators,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
which is not
I mean,
bad
I'm a
though.
solo developer. Yeah, I'm a solo developer. I have to do so many things. At least I can be forgiven for not being
Yeah,
good
true,
at
true, true,
marketing.
true,
Right?
true.
Hopefully, but it's something I decided to do this year only.
Okay.
So I worked for over 4 years and a half with saying zero about my game to anybody outside of family, friends. Nobody else knew about my
It
game.
was really a passion
So
project then.
yeah, yeah. So I kept it secret, and the first appearance, the first inauguration of my game to the public was during a demo day in each website. And I decided, oh, that's a good opportunity, because I need feedback and I want to see, I mean, how well I did and how badly I did so far, right? I need the opinion of people. And from this point forward, I also started talking more about my game. But it was the feedback part, I needed more people to, because all the people I know, I mean, they're being supportive, but nobody really are, they are not real gamers.
True,
They're
true,
not
true.
people like, oh, let me test your game, Roger. They're not like that. So I needed actual gamers, uh, um, reference people who love the genre to play my game and tell me what's wrong with it, how can I improve it. And from then on, I started a very slow process of, okay, I never used Twitter before in my life, so I got started now. No choice about that. All the other social media sites, I think I only had the YouTube. I had a YouTube account, but very rarely I made any comments, and so I was never really a social media user. You know? So that kind of interactivity with other people through the internet, it was that kind of thing that I never really got into it. So it's totally new. The marketing through internet, through social media, has been totally new. But thankfully, I've met some great people who have helped me along. Have talked about my game. I'd like to give special thanks to a great guy here, also from Brazil.
Nice.
He's known as the Flying Kick. The Flying Kick. He has the Flying Kick channel. He's a great lover of beaten ups, and by chance he found me when I think it was when I posted on Reddit. He found my post, and he was like, "Oh,
That's
it
very
looks
nice of
great. I
him
want
that
to."
he was like
Yeah,
first to pick up. That's
very
all
nice. Yeah,
always a great pleasure, right? And a great experience to have that. Okay,
yeah.
it's not just for
But there were many
me.
others.
It's my
Yeah,
own will and passion to do a game, but finally somebody
yeah,
recognize it. It can be a very nice and
exactly.
heartwarming
But there were
feeling.
many others.
True, true,
There are
true.
many others who helped me get the hang of it.
True.
Also
And it
started
matters at the end of the
helped
day
me.
because like even if you are
Yeah,
like it's a passion of yours at the back of creators mind, creators wants to have the attention, right? So even if it's not on
yeah,
an
yeah. The
intentional
people.
level, but they want to like at least get a feedback that
Yeah,
if it's good or not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some great game developers have also helped me not just with feedback, but also help with me on my pages.
Nice.
So I can. I mean, I had before this interview, I had to make a, a I should have made a list, right? List to give the proper thanks, but I cannot remember them now. But at least I remember the flying kick. But there were others. I think there's the guy who makes Punch Monkey also has been very helpful.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, and I'd like to say thanks to him as well. So it's great people. I've been very fortunate to meet many great people who helped me along this journey.
I love your attitude being
And you also,
respectful.
and you
Thank you.
also.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So what I wanted to say that you mentioned about like not getting to public for many years is that I feel like
Mhm.
I understand this perspective in a way like creators do not want to go public until they feel like they can do it, right? Even if they see process in their game
Exactly.
development, like they don't want to like have so much attention that could form their game in a very bad way that it's not them, right? So that could be the case behind not going to
Yeah,
public, right?
definitely. Yeah, I guess it's also part of my personality. I'm more introvert type. I don't like to. It's part of saying, "Hey, people, look at what I'm doing here. Look at my game." That's kind of uncomfortable to me still. So during these years, not just because the game was still early, there wasn't much to show, but even at the advanced stage, like 4 years, like 1 year ago, when I was at 4 years development, it was like, oh, if I start now, I know there's the whole wish list thing. The better, the earlier, the better, right? When you start, right? The attention, the having to deal with people. Not that I thought that, oh, everybody's terrible, everybody's going to crucify me and say my game's terrible. It's just that yeah, it's the part of that distraction. Just, oh my god, I
True,
have
true,
to
true, true.
interact with other people. It's great, but it takes my time,
True, true,
and I
true, true.
was still solving some issues
Yeah.
that I my game that I have thankfully overcome.
Understandable. Yeah.
I was like, no, I have to. For now, it has to be only on the game.
Imagine how many creators secrets, right? By just
Exactly.
speaking about so many developers
Yeah,
that we
yeah,
do
I
not know
worry
about.
about that.
Go to every city, every home, every they are
Exactly.
not making any games. I got your point, and I totally understand that it's better in public because, like, yeah, it out or away from your own craft, the way that you
Yeah,
want to make it. Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Okay. I think that's a good clue to discuss. So, yeah, thanks everyone who joined for a bit. Like after I closed the stream, some minutes. But yeah, for those who watched it and who asked, very thankful that you, ladies and gentlemen, and also will watch back the VOD or the edit interview of ours. And like I said, I'm very honored today. So thank for you too, especially that you joined us. And you did not mind my personal questions as well, and you were so honest with
Uh,
us. And
You've been great. A great pleasure.
thank you,
I think you have a good future in being an interviewer.
thank
You
you,
make
thank you, thank you,
the very, very good questions.
thank you, my
And so
friend.
congratulations to you too. And thank you for your time also.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye bye, everyone. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.